That's a charged, loaded question for
I
many,
know.
many people. Because, just like I say in the introduction to my book or the preface to my book, I start out by saying this is a channeled book. And what I mean by that is a lot of the information in it came through people, me included, but through a lot of other people that are cited in the book.
Mhm.
So it's not like, well, scientifically, here's exactly what happened and why it happened. If this is sort of beyond science, but it's not mystical or mythical.
Mhm.
It's just an expanded view of reality.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Everyday Woo, the place where we talk about the magical side of life with everyday people. My guest today is Peter Loffredo. Peter is a licensed clinical social worker of, I believe, 45 years. He runs a thriving private psychotherapy practice in Brooklyn, New York. He is a wonderful teacher and supervisor, and I am proud to call him one of my mentors. Peter is also a prolific writer, having written several screenplays and projects for television, I believe at least one of which he also directed and produced. He has an incredible blog called the Full Permission Living blog, which he started in 2007. It has incredible information on it. And in 2018, he wrote a book about his work called Full Permission Living. I hope you can see that. Full Permission Living, the journey from third to fifth dimensional consciousness, which hopefully we will talk a bit about today. And as I say many times in these introductions, as human beings, I believe that we are capable of having extraordinary, outside of the box, quote unquote, woo experiences in this life. And it is the intention of this show to help normalize what those experiences might be. And so, for that reason and many other reasons, I am very happy to have Peter joining me today because I believe he is an incredible blend of being a very good psychotherapist and being an open minded experiencer of and believer in the woo. And I think in this world, we could use a lot more clinicians that are open minded in this way, especially these days. So join me, everyone, in welcoming Peter to the show. Hi, Peter. How are you today?
Hi. Wow, what an introduction. It
Sorry,
makes me
it's a bit
it
long.
makes me want to meet me.
You should. You're a good guy. You should get to know yourself for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I often start off, I think I will start here today with you, if it's okay. What is your definition of the woo?
Well, first of all, I love the title, The Everyday Woo,
Yeah.
because my, you know, strong feeling has been for many years that this kind of understanding, I don't even want to call it thinking, like as if it's an opinion or something or a preference. I think it's an understanding,
Mm,
is critical, crucial, right on time
mm,
right now to understand that what we think of as magic, or we turn into religions, or we turn into, mystical practices, is really the everyday. It really is. And so from the first time you told me the title of your show, I thought that's perfect, you know.
great. I agree, obviously, because that's what I named the show. Yeah. So when do you think this started to become everyday? Was it in your lifetime before that? Has it always been every day? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think what we were just discussing before we started taping,
Yeah.
um, I think 2012
Mm.
was the real turning point.
Mhm.
But there were significant moments before then, 1987 being one, which
Okay.
has been referred to by many as harmonic convergence,
Yes.
and that's or the beginning of the new beginning of the new age.
Okay.
But and then in 2012, we really turned a corner, where this was now, okay, we're not going to blow ourselves up. We're not going to go the way of Atlantis anymore.
Hmm.
So we're in new territory.
Hmm.
And it is going to be that every day, every person starts understanding what's going on.
And so, why do you think 2012? Why did it shift in 2012?
Oh, I'm not really great with the whole calendar aspect of it. I mean,
Hmm.
people talk about the Mayan calendar, and so I don't know why that particular year
Hmm.
was such a turning point.
Hmm.
Maybe it was designated, centuries ago. I don't know
Okay.
exactly why 2012.
Hmm. And
But
so,
I think we
yeah,
we
go ahead.
turned a corner in 2012, and what was on this side of the corner was, well, we might still blow ourselves up and go the way of Atlantis.
Hmm.
After we got through 2012, then
Hmm.
it was like, nope, it's full speed ahead. We're not going to blow ourselves up. We're going to go, you know.
Hmm. Okay, so here's a question for you. From your perspective, just you as an individual human being, where does this information come from?
Oh,
How do you know that?
that's a charged, loaded question for
I know.
many people, because just like I say in the introduction to my book, or the preface to my book, I start out by saying this is a channeled book, and what I mean by that is a lot of the information in it came through people, me included, but through a lot of other people that are cited in the book.
Mhm.
So it's not like, well, scientifically, here's exactly what happened and why it happened.
Mhm.
If this is sort of beyond science, but it's not mystical or mythical.
Mhm.
It's just an expanded view of reality.
And what would you say channeling actually is?
Well, channeling is what you and I are doing right now, first of all,
Love it.
meaning you're channeling the spirit of who you call Amy Boyer, and
Hmm.
I'm channeling the spirit of who I call Peter Loffredo.
Hmm.
So I'm channeling through this body and affected by this personality that I've constructed, as are you. So channeling though more formally, as people think of it, is when someone ready, willing, and able to do it goes into a trance state, and some entities, be it of human origin or not, physical or not, speak through and come through a person.
Hmm. But what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is that for all of us, we are, when we're in, maybe some people might call it a flow state, when
Mhm.
we are actually channeling, let's say, our higher
Yes.
self through
Yes.
us.
And this is something that athletes and musicians know, even though they don't call it channeling,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
when, Michael Jordan goes twirling through the air and
Hmm.
then delivers this unbelievable dunk shot,
Yeah.
right? He's
Yeah.
not he's not thinking on the way up, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pirouette and then I'm going to do. No, he's just channeling his spirit, a higher self, if you will, is
Hmm.
coming through him.
Yeah.
Same with musicians, same, artists really experience this a lot.
Yeah.
They may or may not call it channeling,
Right.
but like Paul McCartney
Hmm.
said, he woke up one day with Yesterday, the song Yesterday, entirely in his consciousness from out
Wow.
of nowhere. He woke up with it.
Hmm.
That's channeling.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Now, these days, some people do it more deliberately, more consciously, more like, okay, I'm going to channel now, you know.
Hmm.
And there's an abundance of really, really great channelers around as a result
Hmm.
today.
So I think the original question was, where does this information come from?
Ah,
You're intimating some of it comes from channeled information.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a big question. It comes from where everything comes from, the great all that is,
Hmm.
so all that is coming through different levels of soul essences until finally, for us, we get to human form, but it's basically we're always channeling all that is.
So that takes me, I'm thinking of two things. I always have two things in my head at the same. So I'd like to cover both, and one, of course, is from 2012, is the Mandela effect. But maybe first, because you're talking about these levels of soul essences, and we're talking about channeling the higher self. I love your book. I basically reread most of it in as I was getting ready to interview you, and I just love the way you frame kind of third dimensional consciousness psychotherapy shifting into fifth dimensional consciousness psychotherapy. And so the lower self and the higher self and the bottom up and the top down. Can you share a little bit about your philosophy of third dimensional psychotherapy compared to fifth dimensional psychotherapy?
Sure. I mean, first of all, the book was too long. It should have really been two books or three books.
Okay.
But congratulations on plowing through it twice. Uh,
I didn't read
um,
every single page, to
I,
be fair, but
I
there's a lot.
don't know. I don't know how many people could. Um,
It's a great resource book, though. It's,
yes.
yeah. So
Thank you.
anyway, go ahead.
Thank you. What was the question?
Seriously, you want me to reframe it?
No, just say it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. For you to talk about the differences, I love this topic. The differences between working in
Oh,
three-dimensional
I see. Right.
consciousness
Okay.
psychotherapy and five-dimensional consciousness psychotherapy.
Yeah. Well, traditional therapy, which we're now calling 3D therapy,
Mhm.
is intellect oriented.
Mhm.
That's the main thing. It's intellect oriented. It's a science of the mind. I mean, that's the way Freud started it. That's the way psychoanalysis began. It was a science of the mind and a method for healing, you know, the mind, a troubled mind,
Right.
you know. And then as the century progressed, the 20th century,
Mhm.
um, emotions were brought in.
Okay.
And so in mid 20th century, therapy went from being a science of and technique and approach of the mind to the mind and the emotions, you
Okay.
know.
Mhm.
And then as the century came to an end, um, the spirit was brought in, not the religious spirit, but the energetic spirit, the energetic spirit, so so you went from psychoanalysis to more flexible types of mind-oriented therapy to the emotions-oriented therapies, and then the spirit uh, oriented therapies like core energetics, for example, certain aspects of Gestalt therapy. We're bringing in the bigger picture that there's mind, there's body, and there's spirit.
Beautiful. And I love the way that you define certain terms. I think you're defining things. I think it's important to know what the definition of something is. That's why I ask almost every guest, what's your definition of the woo?
Mhm.
And so, you define, oh, I'm going to have to look at my notes because I'm not recalling. But like the idea of being vulnerable, you define that differently. So go ahead and start with your definition of vulnerability.
Oh, well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think that's one that causes us a lot of problems, you know, because most people think you're vulnerable when you're open.
Right.
And that's not the case. I think there's a chapter in my book or one of my blog posts that says you're not vulnerable when you're open. You're vulnerable when you're little,
I love that. Yes.
and that's really the case. However, the thing is, we were born as both. We were little and vulnerable when we were born.
Right.
And in that state, we got wounded, we got hurt,
Hmm.
and we had to do something about that. That little being is in pain,
Yeah.
and what it learned it could do with other negative side effects, unfortunately, what is not to feel so much.
Hmm.
To learn so it shut itself down, that little being,
Hmm.
emotionally, and in the short run felt less acute pain.
Hmm.
So it drew the conclusion, oh, being open is what leads to me being in pain.
Right.
And it's not the case because it's little that leaves you vulnerable to those assaults.
Hmm.
If you stayed somehow, possibly, if you stayed open throughout your childhood, which none of us could, if you stay open throughout your childhood and then into adulthood, you solve the problem of vulnerability this way. Instead of wearing a suit of armor to protect yourself from the slings and arrows coming at you,
Hmm.
which has this negative side effect of you being confined inside that suit of armor, suffocating inside of it.
Yeah.
But if instead you were really open, you could see the arrows coming a mile away and just get out of the way, you see?
And so being open in that way, in part, is you accessing your own intuition. And if you're closed and because you're scared to be vulnerable, you're not going to have access to that
Exactly.
type of
Exactly.
information.
And you have to rely on the arrows bouncing off your defensive system, which is confining you.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you're open, you see like a negative person or a situation that's toxic, and you say, "Oh, I'm not going there.
Hmm.
Not going there." You
And
know,
in fact, sometimes you don't even have to be seeing them literally with your eyes. You can sense it before you even walk into a room.
even better. Yes.
That's the woo.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. That's what we should trust.
Yes,
We
yes.
should trust the woo. It could be a good t-shirt, right? Trust the
Oh,
woo.
you're going to get a gift. So,
This is like one of those programs where the guests get a gift after.
yeah, actually, it's becoming that. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So, do you think as you continue, I believe, unless I'm wrong, to work with clients, and let's say maybe just the past 10 years, although you can do the last 20 if you like, you can do whatever you want. um, do you think that clients, that people that come to you are shifting and may shifting faster, relaxing and opening up faster, and or maybe even coming in more open than back in the day, let's say?
Hmm. That's a. I want to say yes right off the bat,
Mm-hmm.
and that may be the correct answer. I
Okay.
do. I do think people are accelerating through their healing process, which we call therapy,
Mm-hmm.
um, faster than they used to.
Yeah.
However, it's still an individual thing. We have free will. We have our own um, mission, so to speak, what we came here to experience, how much, how soon,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it still varies from individual to individual.
Okay.
But overall, I would say maybe the way to see it is in that there's so many people in therapy these days.
Okay.
Now,
Yes.
I've been in this business long enough to
Yes.
to see
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anything like this.
Oh,
I've
okay.
never seen a time where there's so many people seeking to work on themselves
Hmm.
and so little, comparatively speaking, judgment about it. Like
Yeah.
it used to be, if you were in therapy, the question someone might ask you is, why are you in therapy?
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, if you're not in therapy,
Mm-hmm.
people will say, why aren't you in therapy?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know? So that's to me a sea change that I've witnessed, and I'm very gratified to have witnessed that.
Yeah, beautiful. So I want to go back because I had one more question. It popped into my mind that I've asked other people about this, not on this show, I don't think, but I'm really intrigued by, I'm a psychotherapist as well. You know that, Peter. Maybe people watching don't know that. And I've shared and talked about with some people and some colleagues that when a new client comes to me who is really entrenched in what you would frame, and I've learned from you, I would call it the same thing, their character structure, and maybe you can talk a little bit about what that is so people understand what I'm talking about. But first, when people come and they're really entrenched in a challenging character structure, and they do this kind of work to in a overgeneralized nutshell shift from being armored to being open in the way that you were kind of describing when you were talking about vulnerability. I have noticed, and this is what I was talking about, saying they can sense it, someone in the other room. I have noticed that people basically become psychic. So their clair senses start to come online as they are shedding the programming, relaxing their armor, tuning into their real self, trusting and loving their real self, they absolutely begin to be able to sense and know and feel and sometimes see and hear. Um, again, all the clear senses. So I'd love for you to just talk a little bit, even though
Yeah.
we just kind of covered it, but more
Yeah. No,
specifically.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful, Amy, because that's something also that I'm seeing,
Yeah.
that people don't need to be indoctrinated to the spirit. The spirit comes through them. So I have found when somebody first comes to therapy, and mainly what they're working on are some relationship issues, some interpersonal issues, some intrapersonal issues, whatever it is they've come in with. I want to stop smoking, or I want to stop, getting into bad relationships, whatever it is.
Right.
Once they have kind of worked through some of those issues, and not like it's so linear that there's an end point where you're working through and you're done,
Right.
but you've worked through enough of them inevitably. And that's why I feel like I've been led to this. It wasn't like I had this idea about 5D and I'm going to do this thing. No, it's like it's come to me.
Mhm.
And it's come to me a lot of times through my patients.
Yes.
A patient will have worked through some serious, painful, emotional issues. And
Mhm.
then they say, basically a version of, okay, what's next?
Mm.
I could feel that there's something more. And that very often will lead to, we might do past life regression sessions.
Mhm.
I've in recent times, these years, have done more past life sessions than ever before,
Wow. Hmm.
and not that the people came to see me looking for that.
Right.
They didn't even know I did that.
Right.
It's like a little sideline. Um, but what happens is when you work through those basic personality blocks and character structure blocks,
Right.
you become aware of the fact that there's something more.
Hmm.
Like there's something more. And that something more is energetic, spiritual. So I feel like, I started out in this business as a pretty conventional Freudian therapist back in the day, you
Okay.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and how I've evolved into this guy writing a book with 5D in the title
Yeah.
um, is I feel like it's come to me. It's through my patients, through my own work on myself. It's come to me. It's not like I had this idea. Oh, 5D, that's a great idea. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
So kind of, I'm not sure if this is accurate or not, but it sounds to me like what you're saying is I've experienced this. You don't really think anymore.
Well, some would say I've never been big on thinking, but
But truly, it's like, there's not
yes, it's less
your
brain.
thought. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
flow.
less brain oriented.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
yes. And yeah, and that's why it's worked. Since COVID, since 2020.
Hmm.
I've been working now, having nothing to do with COVID, but I'm working strictly
Oh,
remotely,
okay.
mostly by phone.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, almost exclusively for a number of years now,
Right.
and it hasn't slowed down or interfered with my work at all
Yeah.
because people are now communicating much more consciousness to consciousness.
Absolutely. I've shared with many clients whenever we do phone sessions. I work remotely as well, but often this way. But sometimes I do phone sessions, and I share with clients. I love phone sessions because you receive information in a slightly different way,
Yeah.
like I do anyway.
Yes,
Because
yes.
the visual isn't there, I think it causes, at least for me, it causes me to connect a little bit more telepathically, let's say.
Yes, yes, that's right. And at the very least, it gets rid of worrying about how your hair looks, you know?
Yes, and I was worried about that before I came on.
Me,
So,
me,
absolutely.
me too, believe it or not.
I do believe it. Your hair looks great. Okay, so um yeah, I would love to talk a little bit about going back to 2012
Mhm.
and the Mandela effect. I experienced in 2012, I literally felt like I had entered into a completely new world. I viscerally felt, and I've actually had this experience more than once in my life, but this was the most profound. I felt like that world is gone and I am in a new world. And then all of a sudden, I start becoming aware of all of these different Mandela effects.
Mhm.
So, first of all, if you'd share, or I can if you want me to, what the Mandela effect is, and then why do you think it started happening?
Well, I think we've given it a name, so now we think it's like something new.
Huh?
And what it really is what we're becoming aware of the fact
Okay.
that, and now I'm so grateful to the universe for this. Even mainstream science now, mainstream physics and quantum physics knows that there are parallel realities and multiple parallel realities, maybe an infinite number of parallel realities. And some of them are not that far away from the one we think we're currently and singularly in
Mm-hmm.
you know so there's another reality, in other words, and now science is saying this as well. There's another reality where you and I are having these conversations and you're interviewing me, but maybe you have different plants behind you,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe your walls are painted a different color,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe something more significant you
Right.
know
Right.
but that that's kind of what it's like. And the Mandela effect isn't like a new effect. It's the awareness of it that's new.
Okay.
The awareness of the fact that there are multiple parallel lines of reality existing side by side.
Mhm.
What's happening now that's exciting and different in a way
Okay.
is that we can shift consciously if we want, you know. So, instead of praying the way we we're brought up about praying. Please give me this. Please do this. Please help me with this. Praying now kind of can look like focusing in and saying, I shift now to a line of reality where, and then you know, visualize materializing the line of reality you prefer to experience,
Beautiful.
you know.
In your experience, can you give an experience where that has worked for you?
Oh.
You do it every day, it works all the time.
um, yeah, I was that yes to that last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, you know, it doesn't work all the time. If there's something happening,
Mm-hmm.
right, that I really prefer not to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
will try and go within and clear myself and say, I shift now to a line of reality where, and then I fill in the blank.
Right.
Does it not work sometimes? I would say, no, it's that I don't work sometimes. In other words, our doubts and fears and skepticism
Mm-hmm.
can't just be overruled.
Mm-hmm.
If we have doubts and fears and skepticism, we have to work them out and see where they came from. So if I do that, if I say I shift now to a line of reality where, and it doesn't work, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
my next move is to go within and say, okay, what's my resistance to this? What's the resistance? Why don't I want to work this through? In other words, what am I getting out of this negative experience?
Beautiful.
And that's the challenge because people don't want to think that they're experiencing, you know, some chronic problem by choice,
Right.
but that's the way out, you know.
Beautiful. And so it reminds me another word that I would like your definition of. I think you just gave the definition of it, but I'll frame it this way. What is your definition of a miracle?
I love that question. And I have to admit right off the top, this is not my original quote.
Okay.
Um, but I don't know whose quote it is, but it's not my original. But the
Okay.
quote, I first encountered it in the book Hands of Light by
Hmm.
Barbara Brennan.
Okay.
I don't even know if it was her original quote because it was supposedly channeled.
Right.
And the quote is, miracles are the result of nature unimpeded.
Oh,
Miracles are the result of nature unimpeded.
that's beautiful.
Exactly. So
And
if I'm praying for a miracle or trying to invoke a miracle and it doesn't seem to happen, then I go to look at, well, how am I impeding it?
beautiful.
You know?
So you just gave everyone a process to create a miracle. So,
Yes.
but you have to work it. You have to
Yes.
actually, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And go ahead.
Because the gig here on planet Earth is we have free will.
Right.
We are sovereign beings and we can suffer as much as we want because our higher self knows the suffering is just an illusion, part of a game, So if we want to experience the illusion of suffering, well, there is no true linear time, so we can experience that as long as we want.
Do people buy that when you tell them for the first time?
More people than ever.
Ah, beautiful. That goes back to that other question, how people are
Yeah,
showing up in
yeah,
therapy.
more people than ever. It used to be if I said to somebody, this was a sure way to lose a patient for them not to come back. And
Right.
if I said anything that remotely hinted at, well, you create your own reality from your beliefs. Bye. You know, but not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Do,
still meets with resistance, don't get me wrong, but not the way it used to. In the past, it was okay, you say something like that, you're telling the person they're a self-inflicted victim of themselves, they're not going to go for that.
Mhm. Yeah, and so I don't know that this is a great question, but why is that happening? Why are more people coming in already understanding that this is true? It to me, it leans into the potential that the culture is actually changing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that ties back into 2012. You know, we kind of set that date for ourselves on our, human calendar. We set that date as we're going to make the shift. And I call it in my book the run up to 5D
Mhm.
because we're all in 4D right now. So we're going to 5D.
Mhm.
But that in the run up to 5D,
Mhm.
all of the old paradigms are going to start to loosen up, you know. And that's why the Mandela effect. That's why we're seeing suddenly it's not that there used to not be parallel realities. It's that now the walls between the realities are thinning,
Mhm.
in some cases falling apart altogether.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love about you that I don't do enough of is, as these old paradigms are falling apart, you, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you are able to stay on a really upside of, nope, things are getting better, things are getting better. And when I see the paradigms falling apart, sometimes I get caught up in fear and it's hard for me to stay in a.
Yes, well, I get that a lot lately. Um, I won't mention any names of any presidents, but but I get that a lot. Like, how could I say, Loffredo, how can you say things are getting better? Look at
Mhm.
what's going on here. Look at what's
Right,
happening right this minute with ice and all this stuff, right?
right.
And the answer that, again, came to me, it's not like I just constructed it, but the answer that came to me is this. Think of the process of any any illness, a
Mhm.
cold, a flu, any kind of illness.
Mhm.
When you're turning the corner and it's starting to heal that illness, what happens? It's the ugliest time. All the mucus and vomit, everything starts coming out. It's a mess. But that's where you've broken through and you're healing. And that's what I think is happening on a collective basis in our societies, that, we're healing, but all the snot and mucus is coming out and it's ugly. We're vomiting all over the place, but I see that happening simultaneously with more people than ever coming to therapy. And they're meaning coming to work on themselves, coming to evolve their consciousness,
Mhm.
you know.
Beautiful. I love that analogy. I think it's true, and I think it will be very supportive for people to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah. To
yeah,
kind of stay out of fear and trust. This is part of the process. It's going to
yeah.
be okay.
This is part of the healing,
Yeah.
in physical linear terms. It's not like it has to be this way,
Right.
but we've chosen to have a physical experience, and this is what it looks like sometimes.
Right. Right. Very good. Okay, so it's always interesting to me because I usually come into this toward the end. You would think I would ask it in the beginning, but I am always interested in my guests' childhood experiences of the woo. You've evolved into this very open person who, as everyone can tell by hearing you speak today, you I use the term woo with a sense of humor. But you're open to all of these things and you experience all of these things. So I love to hear what were maybe some that you're willing to share, some of your early experiences in childhood of quote unquote woo experiences.
Yeah. Well, I grew up Catholic,
Okay.
right? And I had to go to church on Sunday, and Sunday school or catechism, whatever it was, you know. And this part, I can't really say why I was like this, except that it must have been my soul age, how old I was as a soul. And because I do believe that that answers a lot of questions, how old a soul are you in any incarnation? So I would go to church, and unlike most kids who just that I knew tried to just get through the hour of church and get it over with, I actually listened. And I listened, but I listened discerningly. And again, I can't tell you why I was like this, except soul age is one answer. Um, but I heard, for example, Jesus saying things through the gospel that seemed in direct contradiction to what the priests and nuns were doing and saying. And I was like sitting there saying, wait a minute. He just said, love your enemies. He just said, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. He just said, all these things. And the church is saying, you're going to go to hell for being bad and disobeying your teacher. you know. And somehow, I know I'm not really answering your question because it was just always in me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like I saw spirits
Okay.
when
Mm-hmm.
I was a kid. I mean, I'm sure I did because I all kids do. You know, and the few times I can remember seeing a spirit, it was a scary experience. Um,
Can you
so
share one of those experiences?
well, it was actually in a dream,
Okay.
right? And there was a mailbox hanging on the outside wall of my house. And I knocked on the mailbox like as if it was a door.
It-
And out came, this is the name I gave to this dream ever since,
ah,
out came a skeleton, right?
mhm.
But the skeleton wasn't being scary or mean. It was being like jolly and, smiling, but scared the crap out of me.
How old were you, if I may ask?
Oh, I must have, 6, 7, 8. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Wow. Yeah. And you remember that.
Yeah, but I guess the thing is, it felt so real, even though it wasn't pleasant. It felt so real, you know.
Do you think it was real?
Well, I mean, I think everything is real in a sense. I mean, we everything we create with our mind is as real as we want to experience it,
Mhm.
you know. I
Well,
mean, I would say conversely, I would say, and therefore also nothing is real.
ah,
Like everything is a play that we're acting in. Everything is a story that we're playing out.
right,
Everything is our imagination.
right.
you know?
Yeah. So you talking about that dream led me to, if you're willing to go down this rabbit hole just a little bit, um, you know, I could frame it this way. What is your definition of schizophrenia?
Huh. Well, I started out in this business as a social worker, a graduate student, working with schizophrenics. And
Mhm.
again, this is one of those things that just seemed natural to me.
Yeah.
Like I started working with these schizophrenics, and I just had the thought, and again, it was not coming from any spiritual teachings or anything. I just had the thought, maybe what they're seeing is real. And the problem is that they don't have the filter. So they're half in physical reality and half in spiritual reality, and they don't have the filter through a strong ego that most of us have. And
Mhm.
that's so what I would do just spontaneously working with schizophrenics is I would talk to the spirit that they were seeing or talk to the hallucination that they were seeing. And it was amazing, because all of a sudden they would come back into their eyes, you know.
Um,
and like they would become present, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
because if they're seeing this thing, whatever it is, this vision, and I'm saying, well, it's not really real,
Right.
they're just going to tune out,
Mhm.
and and so then we give them drugs instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to say anything about that? Drugs in psychotherapy?
You know, I used to be really a hard ass about it. I,
I know.
I used to really be a hard ass about it.
Hmm.
As I've kind of mellowed
Hmm.
myself, I've come to realize, there's a time and a place and an appropriate use for everything. And but that being said, I see drugs in the most positive light as permission slips.
Beautiful. Give us
Again,
a definition
again,
of permission.
yes, again, not my original idea. This comes from Daryl Anka channeling Bashar. Um, and basically, a permission slip is like the placebo effect. If you believe in something strongly enough and believe it's going to have a certain effect, chances are it will.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, if you do it and you don't believe in it, it's not going to help you. So I think that's how I see medication these days, as a permission slip. Jane Roberts, who channeled Seth, one of my favorites. Um, there's a passage where he talks about Seth, the spirit talks about losing your vision as you get older.
Oh, yeah,
Your vision deteriorating,
sure.
and he talks about it that's just a strong collective mass belief that that's what happens when you age. And he says, but if you really worked on that belief, really worked on clearing it, where it came from, how it serves your lower self, whatever, um, you can restore your vision.
Hmm.
But here's the great funny caveat. At the end of that whole passage, he says, but for most people, it's easier to wear glasses.
I love a sense of humor. That's fantastic. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So that's how I see it these days, is that they're permission slips, but you know, we need permission slips sometimes in the
Yeah,
short run.
yeah. I'm glad to hear this definition because I remember the harder definition from the
Yeah.
past. So this is lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
I agree with you now. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And that takes me to, and I don't know what the question is. You're going to have to help me out here, maybe, if there's anything in it at all. The idea between a collective belief and what the world that we live in being a collective creation that we are in, which is actually in flux right now. I guess it always is, but and so here we are in this collective creation, and then the individual themselves really trying to heal, for one thing, and create their own reality. Like that's
Yeah.
challenging because the
Yeah.
collective is holding a certain vision. I don't know if there's a question in there, but
Yeah. Well, that's the multi-dimensional reality of who we are. We are always both.
Mhm.
We are uniquely individual,
Mhm.
and we are absolutely part of a collective.
Right.
you know, and a collective that, let's just narrow it down to Earth, has decided to have a physical experience on a planet called Earth,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
that's an experience we've all agreed to have.
Hmm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here on planet Earth.
Right.
However, within the parameters of that, we say, but you can also create your own reality
Mhm.
within those parameters.
And what allows for your individual creation to become a little bit smoother, easier, if anything?
Being ready, willing, and able to admit the ways in which negative experiences serve you.
Beautiful.
You know,
So,
because the more you're stamping your feet and saying, "I don't want this, but I don't want this, but I don't want this," you know, you're entrenching it,
Right.
you know. Whereas if with soft hands, you're just saying, okay, why am I creating this? How does my child self, my lower self, think this is serving me?
Mhm.
You know, and embracing that aspect of the self with love, you know.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Love always comes up in every interview that I do.
How could it not? Yeah,
Exactly.
how could it not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that seems like a really good ending point. And yet, I have another question.
Uh,
If you can spare just a couple more minutes.
I absolutely can.
Okay, thank you. So, the way you just described that, the willingness to kind of accept that, no, there's some, I am kind of creating this somehow. It's serving me in some way, and I'm going to allow myself to become aware of what that is, to me, speaks to the importance of feeling our feelings.
Mhm.
So I'm like, to me, love and feeling your feelings are the two main components in any kind of healing.
Yeah.
So would you say anything that you want to say about the importance of feeling your feelings?
Yeah. Well, Wendy Kennedy, I'm throwing out all the names of all these.
Yeah, you are. Absolutely.
Wendy Kennedy, who channels the Pleiadian collective,
Mhm.
says that in this galaxy,
Mm.
Earth is referred to as the emotion planet.
Ah, okay.
And the meaning of that being that not every planet of reality, not every created planet of reality has people with emotions on it. That
Mhm.
emotions are a particularly unique thing to planet Earth. And
Mhm.
so if we're here, it's because we wanted to experience that. So to be again stamping our feet and saying, "Damn, why do I have to feel so sad or so angry or so scared?" You know, is belying the point. Well, that's what you came here for. You came here to feel this,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And as people actually allow themselves to feel what is genuinely trying to move through them, I believe that they begin to heal. Would you agree with that?
And you have more agency of
Mm.
what to feel. Meaning the less you fight your feelings, the more you get to choose the ones you have,
Mm.
you know, because fighting them kind of reinforces them,
Mhm.
you know, whereas embracing and accepting them and with love and an open heart makes you able to say, okay, I don't need to experience this anymore.
Ah, beautiful.
And thank you. Thank you. You know, it's like another one of my favorite non-original quotes. Some say it was Mother Teresa. I don't know for sure. But the quote, I love this quote, is hating war is not the same as loving peace.
Yeah,
Hating war is not the same as loving peace.
beautiful.
You know, so hating your sadness or hating your anger is not the same as loving your joy and loving your love,
Mhm.
you know.
Beautifully said. Yes. So I think I would like to just ask if there's anything else that is churning within you that you'd like to share that I've missed asking about. Are you sitting with anything?
um, I mean, this is great. Uh, i'm I'm so gratified and grateful to you, not just for having me and for sharing this with me, but for doing this.
Oh,
You
thank you.
know, this is so perfectly timely, you know, um,
Thank
doing this, you know, and I think it was a channeled stroke to come the title, The Everyday Woo, you know. I mean,
you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, clearly that came through you. It's the perfect idea, you know.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
And
So let
I'm glad you're out there in the world doing this.
I say that about you and hopefully to you all the time. It brings my heart joy that you are out there supporting people, helping people heal. and just being a loving being on this earth. Yeah, I'm grateful to you for being here. So, share with everyone, and I'll include it in the notes below, how people can contact you if they're interested in, I don't know, individual therapy or I don't know, anything else. Are you still teaching classes?
I just finished a round,
Okay.
and I'm kind of on a hiatus from them. Wait, but not like a hiatus, like, I'm done, but more like op open to something new coming, whatever it might be next. Whether that means some one-off workshops or another type of class, or I'm not sure.
Okay.
I
Well, share how people can get in touch with you.
I think the best way would be through email.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'll just include that in the notes then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Well, as I already said, I am deeply grateful for you just being in the world and certainly for being on the show today. I'm grateful for all the work that you have done with me personally. Peter he was my therapist back in the day, and I still go to him from time to time when needed. So, I love you. I'm grateful to you, and thank you for joining me on the Everyday Woo.
Oh, thank you, Amy. And more and more and more do I realize that my work with people is a collaborative effort. It's we're healing each other.
I agree.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. All right. Thanks, Peter. And thanks, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you next time on the Everyday Woo. Bye bye.